Waithe truly exemplifies the brilliant, badass artistry that the DWW is always aspiring to support. So it is with the greatest joy that I introduce to you Lena Waithe. Thanks so much.
There's nothing I love more than being in a room full of, creative people. And I think that's the kind of room we're in now. So I'm really excited to be talking to all of you, but particularly to these amazing filmmakers. So yeah, I was thinking about what I wanted to say, and it just sort of got me thinking about cinema and how it sort of shows us ourselves. So roll with me on this one. If we want to know who we are, all we have to do is look to our movies. Cinema has always been the perfect time capsule for us as a society. This time capsule is sacred. Whether we like it or not, every movie that ever comes out is a reflection of us. Good or bad, big or small, funny or heart-wrenching. We look at these movies and try to find ourselves. Directors carry a heavy cross. It is their job to capture not only the human spirit, but it's their job to capture the world in which we live. Not the whole world, but a tiny piece of it. And if they capture it in a way that touches people, they will have eternal life, because their depiction of a tiny piece of the world will live on forever. Directors are powerful. They bear a lot of responsibility. And that's why it's so important that the people making contributions to our time capsule reflect the society in which we live. Now, let's be clear. When cinema was just learning how to walk, our time capsule reflected an America when equality was only a figment of our imaginations. In the beginning, the only narrative we knew was told by those who were white, male, and had the means to make movies. Some could argue in 2018 not a lot has changed. But over the years, women, people of color, and citizens from all over the world have gotten the opportunity to put their stamp on celluloid. Cinema has become more diverse, more colorful, and more authentic with every new release. But going back to the beginning, when we break open the first time capsule, there are some items in there that aren't so easy to look at. There are many movies that on the surface seem pleasing to the eye, but can eat away at our souls. D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation might be hard to watch now, but it is a perfect snapshot of the America in which we used to live. One in which black men were seen as a threat to society, and black women were not equal to white women. Some people deem the film vicious propaganda, while others still believe it is one of the greatest movies ever made. Gone with the Wind is also known as one of cinema's greatest accomplishments. Clocking in at a whopping 3 hours and 48 minutes, it is a sweeping tale of love in the midst of a deadly war. But if you look closely, you can see the blood of my ancestors on the white character's hands. If you look even closer, you can see the smudges of slavery and oppression on Scarlett O'Hara's iconic green dress. When looking at the Little Colonel, there's an iconic scene in which Bill Bojangles Robinson dances up and down a flight of steps with a precocious Shirley Temple. If you just glance at it, it may seem like an innocent dancing sequence between two of Hollywood's brightest stars. But when you lean in, you're forced to remember that in 1935, the year in which the film was released, Bill Robinson was not as free as his pint-sized co-star. Jim Crow was alive and well. The chemistry between Bill and Shirley is electric, but when they walked off that set, they were no longer equals. When the director yelled cut, I wonder if Mr. Robinson's signature smile quickly faded away. We can't deny these films. They will live on forever. They aren't just a small part of our past, but they're a part of us, whether we like it or not. As we move on to 1939, the memorable film The Wizard of Oz graced the silver screen. It delighted audiences all over the world and is still one of the most recognizable movies ever made. Who better to take your mind off of the Holocaust than Judy Garland trying to find her way home? In the 1950s, the civil rights movement was bubbling just underneath our feet, but at the movies, it was all about Eve, an aging actress fighting to remain relevant while black college students fought for equal rights and the ability to sit at the counter at Woolworths. See, sometimes movies aren't just a reflection, but a much-desired distraction. Sometimes our real world is too ugly to stare at, So we put makeup on it and lay a score underneath it so beautiful that we can forget the genocide that's happening all around us. In 1967, Bonnie and Clyde roared into our theaters and forced us to see a new brand of cinema, one that wasn't glossy or kind. It was guttural and at times a little too real. It took a picture of us with a different kind of lens, and we would never look at ourselves the same again. We saw two white leads being utterly human and beautifully flawed. Who knew it would take so long before two leads of color would get the chance to do the same thing? I'm not going to flash forward all the way to the 90s, okay? An era in which I grew up. See, some people call it the era of the black filmmaker. Do the Right Thing, Boys in the Hood, New Jack City, Menace to Society, and Love Jones. I can quote a line from all of these films. I've seen each of them more times than I can count. But let's keep in mind, all of these movies were directed by men. So let's move on to the ladies. Films like Love and Basketball, Eve's Bayou, and Just Another Girl on the IRT not only pierced my soul, but will forever change me. They're welcomed entries into my time capsule because they're eloquent snapshots of me, my sister, and every other black woman I know. The first line of narration in Eve's Bayou is so haunting that it stayed with me like a birthmark. Memory is a selection of images, some elusive, others imprinted indelibly on the brain. That's what all of these movies are, a selection of images imprinted indelibly on our brains. So for the directors here tonight, I ask that you be unafraid of the images in your head. They're worthy of our time capsule. The images in your head need to be seen. Your images may look a lot like someone else's, and if you tell your story, others will feel less alone. When othered artists aren't afraid to show themselves, they inspire more othered artists to come forward. We all belong in that time capsule, and we're still playing catch up to those wealthy white men of the past. It will be a long time before new images outnumber the old ones, but one day they will. So for the directing fellows whose films we're about to see tonight, may the images you show us be imprinted on our brains for the rest of our days. And even if you never make another movie or direct another thing, these short films can never be destroyed because the images you imprint on our brains will never go away. And because of that, you will live on forever. So keep taking pictures of us. Keep showing us ourselves, even when we want to look away. It's your job to tell our story, so go do it. But I beg you not to go about it with dignity and kindness or grace, but go about it like a white, wealthy man would. Do it aggressively, do it unapologetically, and do it without asking for permission. I want to thank you, AFI, for having me. I want to congratulate the filmmakers that are here tonight, and I look forward to watching all of your films. Thank you so much.